Yeah, it's like a commitment. But we're here. Titanic, welcome on board. Guys, we're about to board the Titanic. Jeej. All right, we made it. Okay, so I also availed of like an AI portrait, so we can try it. Ooh. How do I take it like this?
If you want to step back, this is the camera. And I can press it for you.
Ew. Okay, yeah, maybe one. Sorry. Yes, that's me. It's generating. Oh! Yo, that's so cool. So this is me on the Titanic. Oh. Whoa! I kind of like the third one. Oh, there's more. Oh, this is kind of cool too. Whoa. Or 4. Or 5. Or 6. I can't. Maybe not 6. 6 doesn't really look like me. Okay, a lot of 3s. So I guess we do 3. Okay, let's do 3. Now we print it. Wow, that's me. That's pretty cool, huh? It's uncanny. Okay, let's go. Titanic. Done with photo? The human story. Welcome on board. Ooh. Here's the Titanic underwater. Your journey begins here.
1812. RMS Titanic disappeared under the surface of the North Atlantic.
You hear it?
Approximately 700 people floated above the icy waters in lifeboats. Nearby, almost 1,500 people, afloat in the calm ocean, were screaming for help.
They were
But
screaming
as
for
the minutes
help.
passed, their cries became increasingly faint
Yes.
until they were almost imperceptible. Finally, the survivors were left in absolute silence.
Ooh, okay. So this is what they were hearing. Do you hear the splashes of the
In
water?
this room, you can see one of the few surviving life jackets.
This was the
of
life
Titanic.
jacket, okay.
We do not know the name or the story of the person who wore it. Whether man or woman, young or old, passenger or crew member. This life jacket reminds us that each object we see in this exhibition has not only a story to tell, but a life to think about.
Damn.
How
All
could
right.
such a tragedy happen? Why did so many have to perish? In the
Yup.
following rooms, we will explore the world of Titanic and the stories of the people whose lives were dramatically changed by her. Welcome to Titanic, the human story.
This is sad. Oh my god. Okay, so let's see what it says here. On April 15, 1912 at 2:20 a.m., 2 hours and 40 minutes after it struck an iceberg, it disappeared under the North Atlantic. 1,496 people perished in the freezing waters. With each passing minute, their screams lessened until the 712 survivors in lifeboats were left in total silence. There are as many stories as there are survivors, many of them contradictory, but almost all emphasize the silence that night and the horror of knowing what it meant. Ooh. So this one, it's a replica of the life jacket from an unidentified victim on the deck in April 1912. All right, let's move on.
To the Titanic's maiden voyage, gone down in history under the name Maiden. This genteel expression, however, tells us little about the people and events that characterized an era marked by profound contrasts and dramatic changes. The great colonial empires, struggling for global control, found themselves now competing with a new and increasingly powerful country, the United States. At the same time, ideological fervor was characterizing the politics in countries whose borders were, in many cases, very different from today's. However, for most people, it was the social boundaries that affected them the most. The enormous differences between classes led to movement demanding rights for all and a fairer distribution of wealth. Women fought for equality. Workers demanded decent working conditions. And there was a growing awareness of civil rights and the scandal of child labor. Parasol sold as a souvenir to raise funds for the National American Woman Suffrage Association. Founded in 1890 in New York City, the organization led strategic campaigns to secure women's rights to vote, culminating in the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920, which prohibited voter discrimination based on sex. Advances that affected all areas of society, but particularly transport.
Oh,
In
hot air balloon.
films, you will see a range of objects that reflect this age's fascination with technological progress
Is it good now?
and speed. It was not unusual for
Let's
children,
hear.
especially those from wealthy families, to know the names of the most famous ships, such as the Lusitania and the Olympic, and to play with models of them,
Type
progress,
anal if you hear
and of
me.
society's ability to dominate nature.
That's cool.
America
Bro, I
at the
heard
time, a dozen shipping lines competed for the immigrant trade. Immigrants came from North and Central Europe to the coast. This made the journey.
Wait, we're on 3. This is
Next
4.
10 years,
Where's
Southern
3?
Europeans, nearly twice as many in only one decade.
Once on board, for most,
Where's
the
3?
voyage was far from pleasant. Until the development of larger, more comfortable
Ah, it's
ships
there.
at the turn of the 20th century, sailing across the Atlantic was an experience that left an enduring mark on many passengers.
Ah, this is the...
The journey seemed designed to test our worthiness of the
Oh.
promised land. It was the crossing of the Atlantic in the steerage, 8 days to cross the Atlantic.
Oh my god.
It was just
What the heck?
We were down on the bottom of the boat there, and it was like rows and rows of beds, just for women, of course. And one climbed over the other when they had to get into bed or get out. It was a tough situation. And the sickness, the vomit all over the place.
The vomit.
It was horrible.
From 1892 onwards, most Europeans arriving in America for the first time were deposited at the U.S. Immigration Station on Ellis Island, just past the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor, before heading to their final destinations.
Yo, I can't imagine living in that time.
The White Star Line was founded in 1845, initially focusing on shipping between Britain and Australia during the gold rush. Later, it shifted to the immigration trade from Liverpool to New York.
Okay,
but
do you want to
eventually
watch
went
this or
bankrupt.
next?
In 1867, Thomas Ismay purchased the company. At the time, conditions on transatlantic ships were terrible, as most immigrants had one-way tickets.
Okay, next.
Ismay transformed the industry
Oh yeah, it's on
by
fire.
building ships that were faster, safer, and above all,
Lol.
more comfortable. After his death in 1899, his son Bruce
Oh,
Ismay
nice
took
mustache.
over. During a fierce price war between shipping companies,
White Star
American
Line.
financier J.P. Morgan saw an opportunity and bought most of White Star's rivals.
That's JP Morgan.
In 1902, he acquired the White Star Line too. Morgan's growing shipping empire alarmed competitors like Germany's Hamburg America and Britain's Cunard. In response, Cunard built 2 fast ships, the Lusitania and Mauretania. This inspired White Star Lines to plan even larger and more luxurious ships, the Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. At the end of this room, you'll find a large poster by Montague B. Black, an artist known for creating many paintings and postcards for the White Star Line. The artwork shows the Olympic in the foreground and the Titanic in the distance, to the right.
That's the Titanic.
Originally, Titanic's name as the largest steamer in the world was also featured. But
Largest
after
steamer
her
in the
tragic
world.
maiden voyage, the company painted it over.
Ah.
But if you look closely, faint traces of the name are still visible. The history of White Star Line and its competitors showcases the remarkable engineering, innovation, and ambition that defined the golden age of transatlantic travel.
That's cool, man. White Star Line. Liverpool, Queenstown, Boston, Philadelphia. Wow. Jeej. Okay, let's go to the next one.
To build these ships, the White Star Line turned to one of the most reputable shipyards in the world, Harland and Wolff, based in Belfast, Northern Ireland. William Parry, Lord Parry, its chief executive, secured an exclusive agreement for the construction of all their ships. In 1889, he brought his nephew, Thomas Andrews, a naval architect, into the company to head the design department. Andrews would be responsible for the planning and construction of, among others, the 3 new ships planned: the Olympic, the Titanic, and the Britannic. Meticulous and dedicated, he was part of the so-called guarantee group that sailed on maiden voyages to check all was running smoothly. Finally, on the morning of March 31st, 1909, the first section of the Titanic's keel was laid. Harland and Wolff had more than 14,000 workers, and nearly 3,000 men worked over 2 years to complete her construction. In a nearby display case, you can see the original tools used by one of them, Thomas Macaulay, together with a deck of cards belonging to him. He was a specialist carpenter, working on the ship's interior spaces, such as cabins and first-class saloons. The workers who built the Titanic had a tough and dangerous job. Their working week was usually 49 hours long, with only 7 unpaid days off in July and a day off at Christmas and Easter. They earned between 2 to 5 pounds a week, which would be equivalent to approximately 40 to 170 US dollars today.
Oh my gosh. Poor them. Well, oh, I'm talking so loud. Number 6, safety at sea. Let's see. Are you enjoying, guys? Do you like the audio? Do you like the audio? We're gonna actually go on the ship here. Do you like cruises? I love cruises. Nick and I will go on a cruise eventually. It works well? Great. Okay, perfect. I'm glad. Okay, let's go to the next section. Safety at sea. Clearly it wasn't that safe, guys.
How could an unsinkable ship sink? Why didn't they have enough lifeboats on the Titanic? Andrews and his team designed an extremely safe ship.
Sure.
Divided into 16 watertight compartments, connected by doors like the one you see recreated here. This system was, in fact, the reason Titanic was labeled as unsinkable. This is how Frank Prentice, a crew member on the Titanic, remembered it.
Did you have any lifeboat? We had no lifeboat drills. Lifeboats were things that they weren't necessary. See, we were on a ship that was unsinkable.
But the Titanic was neither the only nor the first ship to use this system. Next to the watertight door, you will see a book published in 1906 by one of the companies that developed these mechanisms. It's titled Unsinkable Ships. All ships incorporating the system were given this label. However, on the first page, a small note was added. Practically unsinkable ships. As for the lifeboats, Thomas Andrews had designed the ship to carry 64 boats, thanks in part to a new double-acting davit. In the display case, you can see an original model created by the Swedish Whalen Company for this system. Yet, Titanic set sail with far fewer lifeboats, due to a combination of outdated safety regulations and the complacency of the White Star Line. The 1894 Merchant Shipping Act set lifeboat requirements based on tonnage, not passengers, never imagining ships over 10,000 tons. Titanic, at 46,000 tons, met the legal minimum for lifeboats, but these had space for just 40% of her capacity.
All right. Wait, what's the next one? But 7 is there.
In the early hours
I
of
go here.
April 10th, 1912, hundreds of passengers gathered at White Star Line's dock number 44.
Okay, it's starting.
Contrary to popular belief, less than half of the available spaces were filled, and many first and second class tickets went unsold, despite White Star Line appointing their most renowned captain, Edward Smith, nicknamed the millionaire's captain. Among the experienced officers was First Officer William Murdoch. Framed here is a letter he wrote on board Titanic on April 8, 1912. In it, he describes the difficulty of finding crew members, the weather, and the coal shortage. Since February 1912, Britain had been grappling with a coal miners' strike. Many ships canceled their voyages, but White Star kept Titanic on schedule by transferring coal from other vessels to her. This brought many unexpected travelers on board. At 12 noon, Titanic finally cast off, aided by tugboats as she maneuvered away from the dock and set course for Cherbourg. There, more passengers, primarily from first and second class, joined. After a brief stop, Titanic continued to Queenstown, Ireland, where mostly third-class emigrants boarded. This was the last time Titanic was seen from land. Now, we invite you to cross the gangway, step aboard the ship, and walk through a recreation of a first-class corridor. Everything on Titanic was brand new, and the smell of fresh paint still lingered in the air.
Oh, here's the letter. This is the letter. Yo, I can't understand any of this. Is that him? Ticket prices. First class. Whoa, this is how much it was. US dollars in 1912. So this is like the current price of this. So for first class, first suite is $4,350. So back then you could buy 6 cars, like 4T. Low T. $150 for a cabin. It's a monthly salary of 6 public workers. For second class, it's $60. It's 1 wedding dress. Third class is $36, which is over a month of rent for a comfortable apartment in New York City for $36. Wow. Wow. All right. That's insane. That's $130,000 in today's currency. That's crazy. Okay. But yeah, we're about to step in the actual Titanic, allegedly. Okay, let's go in now. All right, we didn't see the outside of this, but yeah, here it is. They're the lifeboats. Should have gotten more of those. More relics. Model given to the White Star Line by the Swedish Well & Company. Ooh, that's the lifeboats, I guess. I don't know if I was able to show everything, but here's some cards. Is that the one Jack was playing? Just kidding. Tools and a deck of cards. Alright, now let's go in the Titanic.
We explore the stories of Titanic's first and second class passengers.
Yo, it's
Together,
creeping.
they accounted for about 25% of the ship's total passengers, with 324 in first class and 284 in second class. The experience aboard Titanic varied greatly between these two classes. First class passengers enjoyed gourmet dining, private promenades, and access to exclusive amenities like reading rooms and a gymnasium. Second class passengers, often middle class families or professionals, traveled in a standard of comfort comparable to first class on smaller liners, with spacious cabins, well-appointed dining areas, and shared recreational spaces. In front of you is a pictorial recreation of Titanic's grand staircase, an enduring symbol of the ship's elegance. Its carved wood paneling, intricate banisters, and the iconic clock, flanked by 2 figures representing honor and glory, showcase the luxury and craftsmanship of the era. At the start of the 20th century, these figures symbolized timeless ideals, with the belief that they should always stand above time. We now invite you to explore the recreated cabins. You can see a luxurious room from a first-class suite, complete with ornate furnishings, mirrors, and gilded details. The most expensive cabins could cost as much as £512,
Wow.
equivalent to over $120,000 US today. Prominent passengers like John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Thomas Cardeza occupied these spaces. A second-class cabin is simpler in design, but still comfortable. Titanic's 207 second-class cabins had 2 to 4 beds and a shared wash cabinet in the center. Only some first-class suites included private bathrooms. A second-class ticket averaged around 13 pounds, or about $3,000 US. The exclusive a la carte restaurant, where meals were specially prepared to order at an additional cost. In second class, passengers enjoyed 3 well-prepared meals a day in a comfortable dining room, with the option of a simpler afternoon tea. Along this wall, you can see photographs of these dining spaces, showcasing their refined design and ambiance. In the center of the room, you'll find 2 display cases containing china, cutlery, and silverware from White Star Line. Take time to compare first and second class table settings. After exploring them, return to the wall where you'll find a showcase displaying a pocket watch. This belonged to second-class passenger Johan Henrik Johansson Kvillner, a 31-year-old engineering student from Sweden. Sadly, he did not survive the tragedy. His body was recovered days later and sent to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he was laid to rest. His possessions, including this pocket watch, were returned to his family.
Rip.
We invite you to approach the end of this room to explore stories of different passengers. People boarded Titanic for many reasons: to start new lives, reunite with loved ones, or pursue personal ambitions. Some even traveled under false names to escape their past or conceal their secrets. The artifacts on this wall, letters, postcards, and personal belongings, offer a glimpse into their journeys.
This guy
Let's
was
take a
in
moment
debt.
to view the display featuring an original letter written by first-class passenger Eric Lind, marked with the official header, "On board RMS Titanic." You'll also notice a photograph of Lind, a Swedish businessman traveling under the false name Lindgren to escape his creditors. In the letter, addressed to his wife Elsa, Lind marvels at the luxury of the Titanic and shares his hope for a future reunion in Sweden.
Did they make that
Tragically,
up?
Lind did not survive the disaster.
What does that say?
Another notable story is that of Joseph Laroche, a Haitian second-class passenger who had studied engineering in Paris. There he met his wife Juliette, with whom he had 2 daughters, as you can see in the family photo. The racial discrimination Joseph suffered in France
No.
prevented him from advancing professionally.
No.
So the family decided to go to Haiti in search of a better-paying job. Juliette, pregnant at the time, and the girls survived, but Joseph's body was never found. He is believed to have been the only black passenger aboard the Titanic.
No.
At the end of the room, you can see a showcase with a necklace, a pouch, and 2 keys. These objects belong to Kate Phillips, a 19-year-old shop assistant, and her lover, Henry Morley, a married 39-year-old shopkeeper. Traveling under false names, the couple planned to start a new life together in America. During the voyage, Henry gave Kate the necklace displayed here as a token of his love. When the ship began to sink, Henry ensured Kate boarded a lifeboat, but he was not allowed to join her. In her pocket, she carried the necklace, the keys to her suitcase, and a small pouch. The suitcase remains at the bottom of the North Atlantic Ocean, but the necklace and keys are preserved here as symbols of their story. 9 months after the disaster, Kate gave birth to their child, whose photograph is also displayed.
So cute.
This story partially inspired the fictional romance between Jack, Rose, and the Heart of the Ocean necklace in the film Titanic.
That's crazy. It was this one that inspired the movie. Wow, this is the real one.
The majority of over 700 passengers traveling in third class were immigrants, people looking to start a new life. Their nationalities were incredibly diverse: British, Irish, Scandinavians, particularly Swedes, Syrian Lebanese, Austro-Hungarians, Bulgarians, even 8 of Chinese descent. Their occupations ranged from farmers and laborers to merchants and small business owners. Contrary to popular belief, third-class passengers were by no means poor. What are often referred to as tickets were technically immigration contracts, granting passage to America along with the basic accommodations and meals. Nearby, you'll see an original immigration contract belonging to Bengt Edvin Larsson, a Swedish passenger who tragically perished. Larsson paid 181 Swedish krona for his contract, equivalent to the average cost of £7 at the time, or approximately 1,500 US dollars today. Months of hard work and saving were often required to afford this opportunity. Nearby, you'll find, among other personal belongings, the inspection card of Velen Oman, who had originally been scheduled to travel on the Adriatic. However, the coal strike of 1912 forced many passengers, including Oman, to be transferred to Titanic. If you examine the card closely, you'll notice the Adriatic's name crossed out, replaced by Titanic. This last-minute change altered the fate of many passengers. Life aboard Titanic offered third-class passengers a level of comfort and dignity uncommon on most ships of the time. You are now seeing a recreation of a typical third-class cabin, consisting of 2 bunk beds. Though austere and sometimes noisy due to their proximity to the engines and boilers, these cabins were still a luxury for many passengers. The White Star Line had been steadily improving the conditions in third class, offering amenities such as hot water, electricity, heating, and meals served in a dedicated dining room. For many aboard Titanic, these were entirely new experiences, adding a touch of dignity and comfort to their journey. Passengers were quick to notice these improvements. On the wall to your right, you'll find an original postcard written aboard Titanic by Carl Robert Carlson, a Swedish passenger. Addressed to his father, Emmanuel, the postcard reflects Carlson's satisfaction with his accommodation. In his own words, "If I had known it would go so smooth, then Anna might have come with me." Anna was Carlson's sister, who remained in Sweden. Carlson did not survive the sinking, and his body was never recovered. Another third-class Scandinavian passenger, Moritz Adal, had a different story. A carpenter who had lived in North America for several years, Adal returned to Sweden after his father's death and was now traveling back to the United States. In the nearby showcase, you'll find possessions, including a notebook recovered from Adal's body.
That is a notebook. That's so small. It's the size of my finger. Let's go to the next.
You can see here objects and photographs that bring to life more stories of Titanic's third-class passengers. Among them are school notes, a receipt, a watch with its chain, all recovered from the body of Carl Asplund, a Swedish passenger traveling with his wife and their 5 children. The family was emigrating to America to start a new life. Although third-class passengers were not confined below deck, they had the lowest survival rate. 75% perished, compared to 38% in first class. Factors included the lack of evacuation drills and their cabin's distance from the lifeboats, making escape difficult. By the time many reached the deck, no lifeboats remained. Standing near lifeboat 15, Asplund and his family faced a heartbreaking moment. A crew member grabbed his youngest daughter, Lillian, and thrust her into the boat, followed by her brother, Felix. Another crew member yelled, "Get the baby's mother down into the lifeboat too," and hoisted her into the lifeboat. As she looked back, she saw Carl and their 3 other children running to the opposite side of the deck. It was the last time she ever saw them alive.
Oh my gosh. That's so sad.
Close by, you'll find a separate showcase highlighting the story of Jacob Alfred Johansson, a Finnish passenger whose possessions included one of Titanic's most unique artifacts. Johansson, age 34, had emigrated to the United States years earlier and briefly returned to Finland to buy his family's farm. When those plans fell through, he decided to return to America, traveling alone on Titanic. In this showcase, you'll find Johansson's gold chain and his personal diary, the only known written record of daily life aboard Titanic up to the day of the sinking. His notes describe meals, interactions with fellow passengers, and his thoughts on the voyage. These writings provide rare insights into the experiences of third-class travelers, capturing their resilience and hopes as they cross the Atlantic.
Well, I can read this. No, we cannot offer you no news as to the fate of Miss Helani. But when definite news comes to hand, we will at once communicate with you. No, like the families that they left behind, I think that's the saddest part. Well, the Black Gang. Huh?
In the center of this room, you'll see a piece of coal recovered from Titanic's wreckage during an expedition in August 2000. This small fragment represents the 6,000 tons of coal required for the ship's transatlantic voyage. Titanic burned approximately 600 tons of coal per day, fueling its 29 boilers located deep within the hull. Coal played a pivotal role in Titanic's story, not just as fuel, but also as part of the broader circumstances of the time. The coal strike of 1912 forced White Star Line to consolidate resources, transferring coal and even passengers from other ships to ensure Titanic's maiden voyage went ahead as planned. Shoveling this coal into the roaring furnaces was the job of the so-called Black Gang, a team of stokers and trimmers who worked tirelessly in grueling conditions. Temperatures in the boiler rooms exceeded 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius, and shifts lasted long hours with little respite. Very few members of the Black Gang survived the disaster, as they worked in some of the most dangerous and inaccessible parts of the ship.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. That sounds like a job. That freaking sucks.
The mass of ice struck the starboard side with such force that the rivets holding the steel plates together burst. Too many of the watertight compartments were now open to the sea. Water began pouring in.
Oh my
The
gosh.
engines stopped, and time stood still for the officers on deck and the lookouts in the nest. The captain rushed to the bridge.
Nice.
Murdoch's maneuver avoided a head-on collision and nearly avoided the iceberg completely. Some passengers and crew felt only a slight vibration. Others, already asleep, felt nothing. This is how passenger Eva Hart described the moment.
And she said at 10 minutes to 12, she felt a slight bump. She said it was just like a train pulling into a station. It just jerked. It was very slight, but she said she knew that it was this dreadful something. She wakened her father. Wakened me. My father said no, he was going up on deck again. It was the night before.
Take a moment to view the showcase in this room, containing Louise Kink's boots and the blanket she used to stay warm in lifeboat number 2. The Kink family, traveling from Switzerland, were among the very few third-class families where all members survived. Louise, a 4-year-old,
That's so small.
was allowed into the lifeboat with her mother, while her father, Anton, was initially left behind. Crew members had formed a human chain to enforce the women and children first policy. However, Anton defied the odds, pushing through the crowd and leaping into the lifeboat just as it was being lowered. Louise wore these boots as she ran across the deck, and the family kept them, along with the blanket, for the rest of their lives. Many life jackets had been issued, but it's estimated that the sea temperature that night was below -1 degree Celsius, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Under such conditions, a person of normal build could survive for just 20 to 25 minutes before succumbing to hypothermia. If you wish, you can touch the surface of the iceberg recreated here. Place the palm of your hand on the ice and imagine your body submerged in water at that temperature.
Oh my god, that's so cool. I can't.
And that plays the
Jeez. And then I got the last boat that was going out, okay? By 2 o'clock, the Titanic's bow had sunk so low that the propellers were clear out of the water. Captain Smith now relieved his men of their duty, and the last collapsible boat was swept upside down off the Titanic. I hit the water with a terrific crack.
Luckily, I didn't hit anything when I dropped in. There were bodies all over the place. And then I looked up at the Titanic. The propellers were right out of water. The rudder was right out and I could see the bottom. Just before 2:20, the lights of the Titanic went out.
Was this normal, boys? As their boat sank further and further. At the same time, the stern rose higher and higher out of the water, and the strain broke the ship in two. Jeez. The lifeboat passengers watched the stern momentarily go vertical before descending on its plunge to the ocean floor. Now it says lifeboats. So there are 2,208 people on board and 1,178 seats in the lifeboats. Oh, 53% of people on board. Oh my goodness. So the exact number of people that boarded each lifeboat is still being debated today. The infographic shows the distribution of survivors in each boat. Alright. So what does this mean? What are these numbers? Oh, so a lot of them weren't even filled. Holy shit, some of the boats were not filled at all. Oh, that's terrible. This one. One boat launched above capacity is this. Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
After pushing its boilers to the limit and navigating dangerous ice fields, the Carpathia, under the command of Captain Arthur Rostron, reached Titanic's lifeboats in the early hours of April 15. The first to be rescued was lifeboat number 2, with around 25 people aboard, most of them women, along with the 4th officer Joseph Boxhall and 3 male crew members. Still wet and shivering with cold, Boxhall informed Captain Rostron of the Titanic sinking at 2:20 a.m., nearly 2 hours earlier. As the Carpathia pulled survivors from the lifeboats, it became clear that no one else had survived. The sea was littered with wreckage and bodies. Displayed here is a first-class passenger list brochure, recovered from the body of a victim. In this same area, you'll see telegrams sent by survivors from the Carpathia. They capture the raw emotions of relief and sorrow as survivors informed their loved ones of their fate. Moving to the opposite wall, the story shifts from the grim task of recovering the dead. White Star Line dispatched 4 ships, 3 Canadian, including the Montmagny, to retrieve bodies from the wreck site. Over 300 bodies were recovered and brought to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where many were buried.
And
Displayed here is a list detailing the bodies recovered
What the heck?
and their burial locations. A stark reminder of the human toll of the tragedy. Nearby, you'll find a life belt from the Montmagny. These recovery missions also salvaged fragments of Titanic from the debris field. Many of these pieces were later repurposed by local communities.
My gosh.
On the wall, you'll see a fragment of wood from the Titanic, one of the few physical remnants of the ship to survive.
Where's the wood? There. Fundraising photo of Oswald Jackson with his pet lamb. Funds and charities were set up to raise money for victims and dependents. 2-year-old collected money for the Titanic Relief Fund. The loss of the Titanic was an international disaster, widely reported and affecting thousands. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. The unsinkable ship. Like of all the ships to sink, why the unsinkable one? Boring. All these deaths are boring. Late for the Skywalker. Sorry, this isn't a Star Wars museum. This is history. This is real, okay?
The press, as you can see from the examples on this wall, scrambled to deliver details. Major newspapers rapidly increased their print runs to meet public demand. In the United States, Senator William Alden Smith chaired an investigation committee. Smith's approach, seen as intrusive by some in Britain, uncovered critical details about the disaster and highlighted failures in maritime safety. Yet some good did come from this catastrophe. In 1914, the first Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS Convention was established, outlining essential safety protocols for merchant ships. The central vitrine, filled with a range of merchandise, illustrates, too, the widespread commercialization of Titanic over the decades. Toward the final part of this room, you'll see posters from films inspired by Titanic. The ship has left an indelible mark on popular culture, from the first Titanic film, Saved from the Titanic, premiered in 1912, just months after the sinking, and starring survivor Dorothy Gibson,
This is cool.
to the
Even
late
beer.
50s cinematic classic, A Night to Remember, and James Cameron's blockbuster, Titanic, in 1997, which brought the story to new generations and cemented its place in cultural history.
Even chips, man.
So, why does the Titanic endure?
What's
This
7?
microcosm of
Titanic
early
per feet.
20th century society, wrapped and trapped in a tragedy, speaks to us on the fragility of life and, for many, of the inevitability of fate. It is a reminder of the beauty and tragedy of the human condition, of how in our quest for greatness, we often encounter our greatest tragedies.
That's crazy. I mean, yeah. That's why most of us know about Titanic. It's because of Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, I'm sure we'd know about it otherwise, but it's a media galore. Because the unsinkable ship sank. Like, how is that a thing? So these are like a bunch of movie posters about it. So I didn't know there were so many movies about it before the Leo one. So these are all different movies. Crazy. Unsinkable Molly Brown. It's another one. Whoa. Is there another thing? Let's see.
The dream of finding the
Yep.
Titanic was almost as old as the tragedy itself. But in the 1980s, Robert Ballard, a marine geologist from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, had been building a submersible vehicle with video cameras called Argo, with this aim in mind. The invaluable
Damn.
work of a French team, led by Jean-Louis Michel, was crucial in determining the coordinates of where to search for the Titanic. Intrigued by the possibility of finding the wreck, the United States Navy's Office of Naval Research agreed to fund an expedition, although its real purpose was
That's
to
cool.
test the location systems for
What's
nuclear
this?
submarines.
Oh, recovered
For
from the wreck.
several weeks, the Argo
Ew.
went back and forth, finding nothing. However, in the early hours of September 1st, 1985, the screens began to show wreckage. After 73 years of searching, the Titanic had finally been discovered. The first recovery expedition to the wreck took place 2 years later, in the summer of 1987. A French North American venture was formed to undertake the operation. Hundreds of objects from the debris field were recovered. One of them is the third-class bowl you can see in this room, with the red color from the White Star Line logo completely washed away by the 75 years it has been in the bottom of the North Atlantic. The discovery of the wreck also confirmed what many survivors had testified. The ship had broken in two during the sinking. The models in this room show us the current state of the wreck. Separated by 600 meters, the bow is embedded in the seabed, sitting as if it were sailing on the ocean floor. The stern, however, suffered a much more violent descent, becoming a tangle of rippled steel.
Wow. That's wild. So that's how it was at first, and now it's like that? Crazy. And that's what they wanted to see in Ocean Gate, right? They wanted to go there. Should have just went to the museum, man. You'd still be alive. But I think this is... Oh, here are all the passengers. All the names. I think this is, like, the end of it.
We are now reaching the end of our tour. Surrounded by the names of the people who were aboard the ship, this final room reveals the true meaning of the Titanic. A terrible human tragedy.
All right, but yeah, this is the credits for this exhibit. I think it was a great exhibit. I got a little lost at some points, but overall it was great. Very easy to follow. I was immersed, just like the passengers. I don't know if I can make that joke. I mean, it's been 150 years. The last remaining survivor has died, so maybe. But yeah, here's some merch. Okay, another MAGA hat. This will make me look like I I'm part of a party that I shouldn't be a part of. That's cute. Should I get? Maybe not. But it's cute. Maybe not. I think it's kind of weird. Like, oh, what hat is that? Oh, for the Titanic. That's not. Red hat's forever ruined, I know. Maybe a mug. Maybe they have a mug where, like, if you put it in water, it changes. Let's see. Oh, here, a tumbler. The Titanic. These look like Nazi memorabilia, man. Okay. Ace of Shadow, thank you so much.
Put some words in between.
Why is that an alert? Good thing the volume is still low. Bro, that's from Emily's birthday party like 2 years ago. And then, no, yeah, I'm not getting the shirt. Books that I'll never use. Large Titanic model. This one seems cool, but I'm not buying it. That's basically it. It's everything they have. The scarf. We'll find Babeez's first. Oh my god. Nick, thank you for the 100 subs. What did you eat? What did you eat? Did you eat something? There's no way. Nick? Let me check my phone. Did he eat something? Alright guys, well, that was the Titanic Museum. Thank you so much, Nick, for the 100 subs. That was crazy. He ate a burger. Maybe the fries, the leftover fries, he ate some. Well, that's fine because he paid his debt. But yeah, thank you guys for watching and going through this exhibit with me. It was freaking awesome. Not what happened, but going through it and learning about what happened. He said he didn't eat anything. Good spin. Thank you so much for the 100. Plus 100. Ooh.